Right, well, here we are again. I showed you in the first video how to get the prism cluster out. So now we're going to completely disassemble this, but before we do, there are a couple of things you need to note. First off, I always mark the bottom of the prism itself, because when you go to put it back in, you need to know what was the bottom, what was the top. So I just put a B with a pencil there. So I know, as I say, when it goes back in, that that's the way it goes back in. Secondly, there is another thing, because this will help with collimation, is you also need to note that screw there, the long retaining screw that goes onto the bar. Its rough position, I can see that it's almost flush there, so when I go to screw it back in, I will screw it back in to that depth, and then if I need to adjust it slightly, I can actually do that. So I must remember that that is the bottom, I've marked that, and the position of that screw, there's about one thread out, so that would be, oh goodness me, probably about 0.5 millimetre or so out. Now, to get this girl out, first off, you will notice on the top of that there's a little screw, a tiny grub screw, that holds that screw there into position. So before we take that out, we have to loosen that. Try not to take it out completely, because you lose that, you will never find it again. So that's loosened off. Next, we take off this top retaining bar. That's that, coming out nicely. That should fall away nicely. Now you can see where I've marked that. B. You could take that bar off and mark it again if you wanted to, but that should suffice, I would have thought. Now, there's no need to take the screw right out. Just loosen it off a bit. And that should do me. So it screws to one side. And turn it upside down. And that should come out. This one's proving to be a little difficult. So if I undo that again, I think it's just a little bit too much tension still on that bar. Yeah, I think that's what it is. And that is now what you should have. There's no need to take this cage off, so that can just sit to one side now. What you're left with is this. There's your prism covers. Those are held on by those two little spigots there. If you remove these, sometimes they can be a little awkward to remove. But most of the time they're not too bad, just need a little bit of persuasion. Just be careful that you're not going to chip the edges there. But as I say, these normally, I don't find, or I haven't found, that these prisms, you will find the odd chipped one, but nothing like the H750 Zeiss. They're almost always chipped, but yeah, that's what you have. That's your prism cluster. So, clean that, get that done the way that you've done always the other prisms. Polish it, clean it, don't take off the mark, and that's us really. And in my next video I'll show you how to put this all back together again. Yeah, fascinating things.